Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I've grown into the person that I am today. And I don't really have any set plan for what I'm going to talk about today. I'm just going to kind of got my coffee and I'm just going to wing it. I can feel myself on the verge of tears, so just prepare for a pretty emotional video today. Long before I had my YouTube channel, I wrote on blogs. Some of the blogs are still up. And whenever something would happen to me in my life, the way that I would cathartically process it would be that I would write it in a blog. And also out of honor of the people in my life and what had happened. I've talked on all of my channels, especially my vlog channel, about my mother's passing. You know, a year and a half ago in January, I showed, I didn't show it, but I showed the process of Alex and I, my cousin, Caroline, and everybody when her mom, my Aunt Kathy, passed away, who was my mom's only sister. And when I tell this story, it's important for you guys to kind of understand the family tree a little bit. I'm an only child. I have my dad and my stepmom, and my dad's family all lives in another town, and I'm close with them, but I'm not super close with them, and just because I grew up away from them, apart from them. So my family really growing up was really my mom's family, and it was my mom and then my Aunt Kathy, and they were only sisters, and my grandmother died when I was, I think, 12 or 13, and their dad, my grandfather, had died when my mom was 4. So growing up, it was my mom and I, Caroline, my cousin, who's also an only child, and we're 3 years apart, grew up very much like brother and sister, and her mom and dad. And that was our little family. And that's my youth, that's my childhood, you know, that's where I spent much of my time. My aunt passed away a year and a half ago, and it was very bizarre to me because in ways I felt like I was grieving my mom kind of all over again because it was the end of an era. My uncle, my aunt's husband, who I'm extremely close with, who I was extremely close with, passed away yesterday. He had been sick for a really, really long time. And my cousin actually got married the summer after I got sober. So she got married 23 years ago, like two weeks ago. I think it was like June 17th, I think is her anniversary. And 2 weeks before that, my uncle, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks before that, my uncle had a massive heart attack and had to have bypass surgery. And, you know, he was in his 80s when he passed away. But he still looked to me like he was in his 60s. He really didn't age a whole lot over time, and he was a long-term heart patient, and he would go into the hospital several times, you know, several times a month and things like that. And it was a lot. And he, I think, wasn't real happy at the end. And I had talked to my vlog about some of the conditions of that. So if you want to know more about the story, that's on my vlog over there. I did a vlog specifically talking about it today called Another Loss. But, you know, it's interesting because I know that he was ready to go. He had vocalized that to my cousin. And I think that grief sometimes is selfish because of our loss and how it affects us. And I've talked about this on here before. Like, you know, there are many times that you go to a funeral and you see somebody crying and you're thinking to yourself, they weren't even really that close with that person. Why are they so upset? When the reality is, they're really grieving pain inside of them that is maybe existing from a loss of a relationship or a loss of a friendship or a loss of just anybody in their life or something in their life, a pet possibly. I think grieving pets is sometimes the hardest pain of all, you know, and that's something we don't talk much about. But I was thinking a lot about this last night, and you know, for me, as somebody that lives in nostalgia a lot, and really the only person that I have left other than my cousin Caroline is my dad and my stepmom. And, you know, it's weird to be you know, when my parents were growing up, there were so many people in their life from high school. Like my mom had a lot of friends from high school that were still her friends in her 40s and her 50s. A lot of friends from college that were still their friends from their 40s and their 50s. I don't have that. I'm not close with the people that I was friends with in high school or college. My closest friend I didn't even meet until 2 years sober. And my best friend Tanya, who's just such a saint in situations like this. She just always knows the right things to say and when to say them or not say anything at all, you know, and she's just been absolutely amazing. And my husband has been fantastic too, but he was extremely close with my aunt and uncle. So it's really hard for him. And I just had this overwhelming feeling last night, you know, that like, I remember when my mom, I'm totally just flowing with this. I have no idea where this is going, but I remember like my mom sitting right in here, actually, right over there. The setup's different, but her couch was over there. And I came over to her house, and she had called me, and she said Diane passed away, and Diane was like one of her closest friends. Diane was her closest friend from high school. They had been friends their entire life, and Diane lived on Beaver Island, Michigan. She called it the island. And my mother always believed that Diane was her soulmate, like, you know, that friends can be soulmates too, and that she was her soulmate. And I came in, and I'll never forget this. You know, my mom was just sitting on the couch, and she was so still. And I remember she was like holding a cup of coffee in one hand. She had a cigarette in the other hand. And I remember looking down at the cigarette, and the ash was like this long. And I was like, and she just was sitting there. And I said, Mom, are you okay? And she said, no, I'm not okay. And she said, who will know my soul now? And I mean, those are her exact words. And I, you know, ever since that happened, and that was 3 years before my mom passed away, so it was 13 or 14 years ago, I've had that in my head, you know, like, who will know my soul? And I feel like there are so many people in my life, like Tanya and my husband, that really do know my soul, but they don't know my youth. They don't know my stories of my childhood. They don't know my nostalgia. My dad is older, you know. And like Tanya said to me last night, she said, ever since I've known you, you've spent every holiday with your aunt and uncle. Every holiday. They were at my wedding. Every holiday that I can remember in my entire life. And just like that, everything changes, you know? Life is really short. We say it, and there are moments that it doesn't feel short, you know? I mean, how many times have people said to you, or you've said yourself, life is really short, life is short, you know, life is fragile, life is precious. But it's true, you know, it's so true. And when you're in that moment and you really realize that you're closer to the end than you were at the beginning, and there aren't many people around that know your story anymore, your story becomes a little bit more fragile. It becomes a little bit more important to you. I'm the only son of a legacy that will die out with a last name. I don't have any kids. I don't have anybody to pass my toys down to except for my nephews, and they're kind of aging out of my childhood toys that my mom saved. And, you know, I didn't want kids. That was a choice that I made. That was long before Alex was in the picture. That was a choice that Alex and I made together. But as you get older, you realize, like, what's my legacy that I'm leaving behind? You know, like, fixing my hair. And I guess to some degree, as silly as this may sound, these videos, my vlogs especially, you know, telling my stories. Maybe somebody will remember those. You guys remember those. You know, yesterday I did this Jeffree Star palette giveaway on my main channel. And I said on there, like, tell me what your favorite video is. And so many people were like, oh my God, I love this video. And I tell people at work about it. And other people were saying like, oh, the pink tutu story, or, you know, like one of your Mother's Day rant. And so my story lives on. And that feels really good. It feels really, really good. Because there will be a day that I don't remember my stories. One of the reasons why I tell so many stories about my mom is because I want her spirit to live on. And I think that's why I don't so much tell so many stories about my dad, even though I have more recently on my vlogs, because my dad is tangible to me, you know? He's alive, he's here. Like, I'm having brunch with him on Sunday for my birthday, you know? We talk regularly. And maybe that's the trick to life, is really embracing those people while they're here and enjoying the stories. You know, one of the things is that when my dad and his siblings get together, they always tell all these stories. Like, it's so much fun to sit there at like family reunions and barbecues and stuff, because they tell all these stories from when they were a kid, you know, of like, they would each get like one big tall Coke bottle a week, you know, and then they would cap it. Do you remember the old caps my grandma used to have those, that you would save the bottles of pop? And, you know, my one aunt would always go around and drink from everybody's pop so she could save hers. And they tell these stories, and maybe these stories sound silly, but maybe they're not important, but it's somebody's life. And it's my life, you know, and I've been working really hard on this book in the last 6 months about my childhood, and it's all stories from when I grew up as a kid. And I'm hoping, if it does well, that I can go on and do high school, and then, you know, as I grow up. Because I want to tell my stories, you know, and this is why, like, I started the Storyteller channel, which is going to start August 1st. And if you want your story told, please email me. The email is listed below with the channel name. Well, so many people have emailed me. But I think it's important just to sit in the moment sometimes and remember people, you know, and honor them. It was such a privilege to have my uncle in my life. He taught me so many things. He was such a wonderful man. He was so respectful and so kind. My aunt always gave me the book by James Kavanaugh. It's a poem, and the poem is called "There Are Men Too Gentle to Live Among Wolves." And she gave it to me like 5 or 6 times in my life, and she would always inscribe, "This book reminds me of your Uncle Dave." And I will always remember him as the man who was too gentle to live among wolves. I love you, Uncle Dave. I'll miss you. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow.